So we'll have a look at this. And I'm not even going to read the article, because the headline is enough. So regardless of what your take is on Donald Trump, I'm not really interested in that. I'm interested in the idea. And I understand that this is America and we're in Ireland and all that sort of stuff, but the principles are perennial, at least across nations, right? So Western nations, we'll take that because it's a Western nation, and Europe is obviously Western nations. So Trump floats ending the federal income tax. Now, if you're interested in making the most that you can out of your short time in this world and in this life, then a better way of doing that, or a way that would allow you to achieve the ends you want in life, or at least help you further on down the road, right? Decisions can always change and all that sort of stuff. Inspiration floats, right? A better way of achieving that or aiding in that would be if you got to keep the money that you actually earn, right? So instead of handing over a fifth of the money you earn or 2/5 of the money you earn, and then you bundle in all VAT tax, motor tax, car tax, right? Tax on petrol, all that sort of stuff, right? How much are you actually getting to keep your own money? It's probably about half of it, right? So you work all your life to keep half of what you earn. And then these floating heads get to come in and take it from you totally arbitrarily, right? Totally arbitrarily. So what would you do if you got to keep all of your money? You would have more expendable income. You would be able to fund other little projects and ideas and things that you have, right? There's a lot of people that if they got to keep the money, they'd probably end up with a second job, doing something that they actually really, really like, right? Which is a net positive in large instances to the world, right? People following their instincts or intuitions or inspiration, right? And not having to worry about not being able to afford things, because you get to keep the money that you actually earn, right? And this demonstrates how far ahead America are to Ireland. That this conversation is now, like, this is on CNN, right? So this conversation is slowly being leaked and massaged into the mainstream collective conscience of American people, right? So it's a floating topic. So people, it's now not crazy to talk about this, right? The idea of just cutting income tax. You won't have to pay. You won't have any money stolen from you that you've earned yourself legitimately, right? And in Ireland, instead of having this conversation and moving ahead on this, because fundamentally, like, if you're looking around at Ireland, and the elections are a great example, because whatever way people fell on the elections, there's a massive percentage of people that wanted change, right? A lot of these people never unpack what they mean by change, but they wanted something different, okay? And you're not always going to be in agreement with what the changes that people wanted, but they wanted something different, which means that they weren't happy with the way that the government were running things, right? Now, they might just want to get in and get their hands on the reins, and they could be just as bad as what came before, if not worse, right? But people that supported that tend to be, Irish people as well, tend to be idealistic, right? And romantic even to a profound degree. And they'll be sold on lovely sounding ideas, right? But one of the best ways of eliminating a bloated government, overstretched, over-involved government and bureaucracy, is to starve it of finances, to stop feeding it. Because without all that funding, without all that free money that's there for people to just take and allocate to certain ventures when they're in government, parasites will no longer flutter around, because it won't be as worthwhile, because government will be cash strapped and it'll just be fed what it needs to do to assure the boundaries and borders of the country, right? Maybe a little bit of involvement with running hospital services or whatever the case is, right? But depending on what you like. But automatically, if you starve it of the income tax, you are stripping it away of so much of its influence and power. And in Ireland, we're nowhere close to having that conversation. But we'll get there. And I want everyone to think on that. What happens? What would you do if you got to keep all of the money that you earned? What would you do? More holidays? A nicer car? Would you pick up a hobby? Would you work a day less during the week? So now you might have 2 or 3 days. You might even have a day. Because some people are stacking up jobs and working 6-7 days of the week just to keep going, so they can continue working 6 or 7 days of the week and eat, right? So what would you do if you got to keep all your money? Your world would change. Your life would change. The way you look at yourself would change. The way you look at the world would change. Your relationships with people would change because there's a burden being lifted from you. But in Ireland, we're barely having the conversation on whether what's happening here is right or wrong, right? Even though you have governments that strip you of nearly everything, even from their own words and actions, your ability to think and speak, right? That's how deep in the trenches we are without even realizing it largely. That the government is not only taking everything from you, even generationally, they also want to stop you from being able to speak, right? So we have a bit to climb before we can get to this sort of position of directly looking at a government and saying, where are your receipts? What are you spending my money on? And I don't like that. So we're not going to allow that to happen anymore. We're not going to continue giving you money. Why would we? Why would we? We're going to keep that, and we're going to enjoy life a little bit more. Is that not what people would want? Regardless of whether you think the government in power at the moment is a beautiful thing and it is divinely ordained to operate the way it is, would you not like to enjoy your life by 20% more? Have a little few more options in life by holding on to the money that you break your back or rot your mind making?